Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Professor Kristin Van Tassel. We want to talk about her sabbatical from last year and some of the outcomes that she's had ever since. So welcome, Kristin. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I wanted to start by asking you about your sabbatical working with a publishing company, I understand. So if you can just give us a little information on that, we'd really appreciate it.
Sure. So a year ago during the spring semester, I was working as an intern, a volunteer intern at Copper Canyon Press, which is a poetry press. It's located in Port Townsend, Washington, but the internship was remote. And so I spent about 20 to 25 hours a week uh, in my internship, learning a lot about how publishing works from start to finish and involved in different parts of it, along with a few other interns who were located from different parts of the country.
It sounds so cool. I enjoyed hearing about it, as you were going through it. So this semester, you're now teaching a class that's sort of an outgrowth of that experience. Can you maybe describe that, and then what some of the students are, or what you've been asking those of us here on campus to do?
Sure. So I'm offering a book publishing class for the first time ever, and it's a very different kind of course than what I've taught before. Most of my classes are either literature courses where we're reading a lot of books and talking about them and thinking and writing about them, or writing classes where we're really working on writing skills. But this class is more of a class where students are certainly drawing on their reading and writing skills, but they're doing so in order to create a product, a book product. And so they're doing a lot of editorial and more administrative types of tasks. So I'm gradually introducing different parts of what's involved in a book. And right now we have a call for work to we're going to put together a compilation of literature and art pieces in a small book. And one thing that I discovered in developing this class after my internship was that we have to move really, really fast. Like trying to fit a book publication into a 15-week semester is incredibly difficult. Actually, like at Copper Canyon, they spend 18 months with a book from when it's signed on to when it is released and hits stores. But we don't have that much time. And so this week, we were voting on a press name. We drafted calls for submission the very first week of class. And by March 2nd, we hope to have a number of submissions. We're inviting students and faculty and staff, past and present, and alums to contribute either a short story or poetry or a short essay or artwork. And already we're getting lots of submissions. It's really exciting. So the next thing that we'll be doing is looking at what we've received and making some decisions about how that collection will work and what it will look like. But in the meantime, and this is sort of the nature of book publishing, is that people are often working on several things at one time. There tend to be several different teams in a publisher. So for instance, there's an editorial team and they work with acquisitions and then making decisions about the actual texts that will be published by the press. But there's also a marketing and publicity team. There's a grant writing team or like an advancement team. I worked for a nonprofit press, and many small presses are nonprofit. And then there's a production team where people are like physically or like digitally actually putting the book together. They work with a designer. And so all of those teams at Copper Canyon, for example, were coordinating their efforts. But here, we're all doing some of everything. And of course, students don't have any experience in these kinds of things. So we're learning as we go. So another thing that students were doing alongside the putting together the call for submissions, which was something that we did collaboratively, and we worked on it over the course of like the first week and a half in order to get it out quickly. Students also each read a poetry book published by Copper Canyon, in order to just get a sense of thinking about the book, not just in terms of what it's about, but also how it's put together. So how is it sequenced, and what physically does the book look like? So really interesting kinds of questions about books, and that I think normally we wouldn't be talking about in a class. Right now, they're also working on what's called an advanced information document, where they're practicing gathering information about how to publicize a book, in this case, the particular Copper Canyon book that I assigned them. But then they'll be doing it for our anthology after spring break. So, so there's sort of a lot going on at the same time.
It's so wonderful, though, like just the kind of experiential opportunity that we're really looking for all of our students to be able to have. So I'm very excited that they're having this opportunity, and I can tell you're having a good time with it too, as you're learning as they are learning. So thank you for doing that. Now, and in addition, I received an email from one of our alums, or a letter note actually, several weeks ago with one of your poems, and so I just wanted to give a shout out for that. I enjoyed seeing the poem, and thank you to Leo Shell who sent it to me. And I just am wondering how that came about, and how, was that a poem you put together as a direct result of the call, or was that something that you had written a while ago?
Yeah, that poem came out it was published last fall. It has an interesting story, or I guess history. I've been a part of a writing group for over 10 years, and it's comprised of some former colleagues and former students. And it's a group that's really dear to me. That was a poem that I drafted over the course of a number of months. It was a response, actually. It's called an ekphrastic poem, and it was a response to an artist work, Mary Kay, who actually was a faculty member in the art department at Bethany College. She retired maybe 5 years ago. And um, so I think that poem was not necessarily, it was not like directly connected to what I'm doing right now, but it's part of my larger interest in in supporting the culture of literature, and and that's what book publishers do. So like I'm working on one side of it as an as a writer and a poet, and then thinking about, it's only possible for poems to reach the world if you have a community of people who are sharing it in some kind of forum. And so that could be a book, or there are lots of really wonderful online journals as well. This particular piece was published by the Land Institute's Land Report, which is a nonprofit organization that works on sustainable agriculture. And I know the editor well, and he asked me to submit a piece. And so one thing that I really like about this project is that it was collaborative in a certain way. Like, in other words, I was writing about the work of a former colleague. My writing group members gave me lots of feedback on it. And then when a friend and editor invited me to submit something, I knew that this was the piece that I wanted to do. So.
Well, it was lovely, and I think it really demonstrates for all of us, like, how we really are lifelong learners ourselves, and that we keep pursuing these interests that we have. And I think that's so valuable for our students to see that we are continuing to develop and grow. So I want to thank you for this interview. I want to thank you just for all that you do for Bethany College and for her students. And thank you for spending some time with me here today. So thank you very
Sure.
much.
Pleasure. Thank you.